Hi guys, Lindsay here, and today we're talking about suppleness. And we've had a lot of talk about suppleness recently. I have a Suppleness Masterclass that's coming up. Talked about what is suppleness last week in our live, and this week the question was, what is a suppling exercise? What makes a suppling exercise? So what is a suppling exercise versus what is not a suppling exercise? And great question. And there's kind of two belief systems, I guess, around suppleness. And some of it comes from the fact that the actual term suppleness when it comes to horses is vastly misunderstood, just like the term collection. A lot of people use the term collection, and what they really mean is maybe contact or pulling on their horse's face, or they mean a lot of different things when they're talking about collection. And the same thing is true about suppleness and suppling exercises. So I want to show you how I differentiate the two. And if you're on the fence about joining the Suppleness Masterclass, this might give you an idea a little bit more about what it is about, so that you can make that decision whether it's something that you want to jump into. So the first question was, are carrot stretches suppling exercises? And carrot stretches, if you're not familiar with them, are exercises where you usually are using an actual carrot, a physical carrot, and asking your horse to bend their neck around towards their rib cage, or could be down in between their pectoral muscles, in between their front legs. You're asking them to bend their neck down so that they can get the carrots. They kind of follow their nose around and stretch their neck around to the sides, or they could be stretching their neck down to get that carrot. And like I said, there's kind of two ideas about what makes a suppling exercise and what does not. And because the carrot stretch exercises do increase the horse's range of motion, they can increase the horse's range of motion, especially for a horse that has some kind of issue with bending their neck around, then some people say, yeah, that is going to contribute to how supple your horse is when you ride it. Same thing with, let's say, the posting trot. If you're working a posting trot and we're getting our horses stretching out and bending their joints and covering ground, does that count as a suppling exercise? And based on this first school of thought that anything that we're doing that is including incorporating bending for our horse is going to improve suppleness, then sure, a posting trot could be a suppleness exercise. My thought is a little bit different here, and I'm going to tell you why. The best suppling exercises are done while the horse is actually in motion. So if you have done carrot stretches or some type of stretches while the horse is standing still, whether you're on the ground or whether you're on their back, and then you've gone and tried to do a lope departure or do a lead change or do whatever it is that you're trying to do with your horse, and that suppleness didn't carry over, then you might understand where I'm coming from, that the suppleness exercises actually have to be done while the horse is in motion, because we have to create these shapes inside of the horse's brain. We have to create the suppleness, the softness, the willingness. We have to make that the habit everywhere. We have to make that the most familiar thing to the horse. And we have to teach it over and over and over and over again throughout different maneuvers. We cannot, unfortunately, we cannot teach it one time with all 4 feet on the ground. Okay. The other reason why I veer away from that first school of thought is that when we look at the actual term suppleness, and if we look at any pyramid of training or any scale of training. So if you have any experience with dressage, you might be familiar with a pyramid where we talk about what elements of training the horse has to go through to become the highest possible level, to achieve collection. And there are a number of different things that the horse has to accomplish, not moves or not maneuvers, but things that the horse actually has to understand mentally and physically before they can actually achieve true suppleness. If we're talking about true suppleness, every pyramid, every scale, everything that lines up and illustrates the different levels of training that a horse goes through includes some type of suppleness. Sometimes they're moved around on the scale a little bit, but for the most part, they're in the same place and they have a very, very similar meaning. So I'm going to show you the training tree, which is the system that's used at Meredith Manor, which is the school that I am a graduate of. And I'm going to show you the things that are on this training tree that show what the horse has to go through in order to achieve collection. So if we look here, right at the very bottom, my screen is reversed, so I got to work on this just a little bit. If we look at the very bottom, we start with rhythm, and we really want to have each one of these things before we move up. So we really want to have rhythm before we have relaxation. We really want to have rhythm and relaxation before we have freedom of gaits. Okay, we really want to have freedom of gaits before we have contact, straightness, balance, impulsion, and suppleness. Okay, so if we're talking about achieving suppleness, we cannot achieve suppleness, true suppleness, the meaning of suppleness, without having these other things, without having impulsion, without having balance, straightness, contact, freedom of gaits, relaxation, and rhythm. So if we think about carrot stretches, in our carrot stretches, do we have impulsion? We do not, because we're stationary, right? Do we have balance? We might actually have balance, because balance is all 4 feet touching the ground evenly. Straightness, we might have straightness, really. I mean, I don't know if it counts if it's not in motion. Do we have contact? No. Do we have freedom of gaits? No. We may have relaxation. We may have some sort of rhythm when we're asking for them, but we don't have all of these parts contributing to our suppleness. Culminating to our suppleness, really. So if we're going to have a really effective suppleness exercise, it's got to include all of these things. You've got to start with rhythm. You've got to have relaxation. If your horse is not relaxed, then they're not going to be able to learn. They're not going to be able to really participate actively with their whole body. So relaxation is really, really important. Freedom of gaits, if they don't have the ability to move their body freely in each one of the gaits, then we're not going to achieve suppleness. If there's resistance, if the rider is interfering with the way that the horse naturally moves, we're not going to be able to have freedom of gait. If we don't have contact, if we don't have the ability to reach into our horse's mouth and take contact there, we're not going to be able to have straightness, balance, impulsion, or suppleness. If we don't have straightness, so straightness is whether your horse's spine is lined up with the line that they're traveling on. So if you're traveling on a straight line, your horse's spine should be straight, like pencil straight. If you're traveling on a curved line, your horse's spine should match that curved line. Balance refers to your horse's feet falling evenly on the ground. So horses by nature will carry most of their weight on the front end, about 60% of their weight on their front feet and 40% of their weight on their hind feet. Balance means that we've got the hind end engaged enough that all 4 feet are actually hitting the ground with an even amount of weight. Okay. Impulsion is a surge of power that is controlled. So if we don't have impulsion, balance, straightness, contact, freedom of gaits, relaxation, rhythm, we're not going to have suppleness. Okay, we'll talk about on the aids and collection another time. But if we don't have all of those things, we're not going to have suppleness. So definitely a carrot stretch is not going to, it may help with our horse's range of motion, but it's not a true suppling exercise. Okay, a posting trot. So the other question was about the posting trot. Is the posting trot a suppleness exercise? That depends on how you're doing your posting trot. Do you have contact? Do you have impulsion? Do you have balance? Do you have straightness? If you have all of those things, then inside of your suppling exercise could be the trot. You could use a posting trot to achieve suppleness. Okay, that's a lot of terms, a lot of talk. Inside of the Suppling Masterclass, I'm actually showing you a series of exercises. We're starting out really simple and we're increasing in the level of difficulty. The exercises themselves are actually not super challenging. You've probably seen them before. You've probably done them before. I know this group of riders in our community and watching this live are typically much better than the average rider, and you guys probably have some exposure to this before. What I want to do is check in with where you're at, help to make sure that we're not missing any of these elements on the training tree, educate around each one of those elements just a little bit more so that we can then elevate the amount of suppleness that you understand yourself and you're able to get from your horse. Okay, so just to sum up, is an exercise a suppling exercise if it is stationary? No, probably not. It can be helpful. It can be very helpful for improving range of motion. It can even be helpful for establishing relaxation. But the best suppling exercises need to be done while the horse is in motion, and they need to include the other elements of the training tree like impulsion and contact and balance and straightness and rhythm and relaxation and freedom of gait. One other thing that I want to point out, as I'm saying that, you know, most of the people that are watching this and most of the people inside of our community are better than the average rider. Most horses, so this training tree is what the horse goes through. There's a totally separate tree for the development of skills for the rider. But most horses in their lifetime don't get much past this area. Most horses in their lifetime, if you think of just the average horse, never experiences true impulsion or true suppleness. Okay, therefore, most riders in their lifetime don't experience true balance, true impulsion, true suppleness. Okay, it kind of, many riders get up to kind of this zone, and that's where they peter out. What we're talking about is helping you break through to the next level by focusing on suppleness and kind of bringing all of these things together. I hope that answers your question, and if you have any further questions, I'm happy to answer them. The Suppleness Masterclass is going to start September 14th, and we are doing it for 6 weeks. It's a combination of live coaching, so sort of this style, but where we can be communicating back and forth. It's on a Zoom call, and pre-recorded lessons. Some of it is educating around the elements of the training tree, educating around suppleness, being able to identify different parts. And then a huge part of it is actually showing you the exercises to do, giving you 2 weeks to work on them, to access the private community where you can post videos and ask questions and get some feedback on how your exercise is coming along with your horse. And I am right in there to answer questions and have a look at your video and see what we can pinpoint that's going wrong. And then we start to increase the level of difficulty for those suppleness exercises. We do that for 6 weeks. And at the end of 6 weeks, you will be experiencing a higher level of suppleness with your horse. You don't need a lot of space to do it. That's the great thing about this exercise. You don't need an indoor arena. You don't need a great big, outdoor space. In the video, I'm doing it in about a 30-foot space. If you have a round pen or the equivalent amount of space, you can do these exercises in a fairly small amount of space. Okay, happy to answer any further questions. As always, you guys, if you have a question for us for a future live or a topic that you'd like for us to touch on, then we're happy to answer those. You can send those, you can write them in the comments here. You can send them to our email at hayeskofellph@gmail.com. You can check out our website, Hayes Kofell Performance Horses, for any of the information about training horses, coaching, the online products, the tack shop, all of that stuff. And I hope that I will see you again next week on Thursday at noon. If you're watching the replay, thanks for being here and watching on your own time. Hopefully I can catch you live soon. And have a great day, you guys. It's a beautiful day here, amazing weather. So I hope you're able to get out and ride today. Bye now.